Okay, thank you.
And Councillor Lucarine is just arriving.
Right, okay. We're all here, lovely. Okay, well, hey everybody, welcome to the Haverhill Town Council Finance Working Party Committee, whatever we call it these days. Just to let you know, obviously we are being live streamed today. Straight on with the agenda then, which I've just lost. So, well, that was the welcome. So, welcome all. Item 2 is apologies for absence.
Chair, we have apologies from Councillor Andre.
Thank you. Item 3 is declarations of pecuniary interest and requests for dispensations. So for any members to declare any interest they may have on the items on the agenda to agree dispensations. So any, I'll take that as a no. Item 4 is the minutes of the last meeting and to approve the minutes held on the Tuesday, 21st January 2025. Do you want to put them up, Colin?
Yep, I certainly can do.
Sure there's really any actions on there.
There we go.
Okay. So if I can have a proposer first that we accept these as a true record. Councillor Smith and seconded by Councillor Hanlon. All those in favour? Yeah, I think that's carried. Thank you. And actions arising. Item 5, actions arising. I think there was one for all councillors regarding training, wasn't there?
I think that's a standing offer.
Yeah. Other than that, anybody got any matters arising from those minutes? No. Lovely. Thank you very much. Item 6 is the public forum. I don't believe we've got any members of the public here.
No.
Oh, okay, thank you. Straight on then to item 7 is the RFO reports. 7A is the year-end accounts. So,
I'm to share those.
Yes, please.
So what we're showing you is, instead of the usual RFO format, these are the kind of official income and expenditure accounts for the council following the close down. The restatement is to match in with the change required by the external auditor to the AGAR, the governing account, the accounting statements we needed to make sure that this matched. So we're restating the previous financial year.
Okay.
And just for the record, that change was because there were two entries that cancelled each other out, where we had counted an internal transfer of funds as income and expenditure, when in fact, of course, it was neither. It was simply moving from the left hand to the right hand, effectively.
Anybody got any questions on that page before we move down to page 2? No. Okay. You can just scroll down a bit, Colin. Yeah, no, I think that's all. Any questions, anybody? No. Anything to add on that, Colin? So no. Anything like?
No, I mean, just to say that you'll see the earmarked reserves have gone up a little bit, and general reserves have also gone up a little bit. So obviously overall, we're in a slightly better position than we were before. But
Obviously, in brackets is a negative. Yeah.
it's in a negative because we've invested in the physical assets, the property fund units, and you can't put the earmark reserves into those. It has to be from the general reserves. So it's an agreement that stood with the previous external auditors and now for 5 or 6 years with PKF, that we present the general reserves in this fashion.
Okay. So we're on to 7B then. Yeah, bank reconciliation.
Yeah, so look, I'll get that one going and I'll share that. This is for you, Kerry, really to talk everyone through.
Okay, so not really a great deal to say on it. It's pretty standard for all of us. The interest rates have remained at the same level. They did go down about half a year or so back, but those current interest rates are reflected correctly. Everything's where it should be with the bank balances. Debtors and creditors for the town council are again within normal bounds, really. If you scroll down a bit, Colin.
Okay, just before we go off the bank rec, I'll just take the opportunity to confirm to councillors that we have received this year's precept, and I've immediately moved the vast bulk of it into the 32-day account. So where it shows £403,000 at the end of 31st of March, it now reads 1.6 million. So we'll hopefully get, as we did it literally the day it came in, as hopefully maximise the amount of interest to help offset costs for the people of Haverhill. Sorry, go on then, Kerry.
That's fine. So as you can see, the breakdown of the over 60-day debtors, again, very, very minimal. The majority of it is Haverhill Community Trust, and then tiny amounts for schools and businesses. So generally running at a very, very small ledger, and that's continuing forward to the next year. The purchase ledger, again, we really don't have much over 60 days, and it runs pretty smoothly. There's nothing there that I'm concerned about at all. With the community trust, if you scroll down again, again, you can see, I've left it on there for right now, but you can see the Haverhill in Bloom account is now closed. That did get closed, with the balance transferred over to the business account. Again, the sales ledger on the community trust running very reasonably. You'll see there's 330 is on account, which is prepayment for events that happen in the next financial year. So it's showing as a negative, but that's just because people have paid up front and they'll have their events next financial year. So that will reverse back out. And then the purchase ledger, again, with the community trust, nothing really there that I'm concerned about. We generally run pretty lean on the ledgers at the moment, so welcome any questions though.
Yeah. Anybody any questions for Kerry? Everybody seems to be pretty happy. So thank you very much, Kerry.
Yeah. I think it's worth saying, Chair, that Kerry did a really good job in making sure that the year end was as clean as it possibly could be, and as many debts were settled, so that we didn't end up with a huge long list of reconciliations. So thank you to Kerry for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Kerry. That's brilliant. Okay. Oh, start on the agenda. Oh, sorry, we've got 7C is the. We've done that, haven't we? Debtors, creditors. Was that part of the same thing?
You've just seen them.
Yeah. So, okay. 8 then is the earmark reserves, which was sent separately, I believe.
Yeah. Do you want to put those up?
Yes, please. Hopefully people can see them.
Yeah, I'll need to scroll through for people to see them more properly. So just as a reminder, most of this is showing in the additions and expenditure that we just run the comparative cost centres through them to demonstrate how they are taking out the balances, so that we have funds in hand for particular causes. As we scroll further down, you'll see that now we're on to Scribe. We're using some earmark reserves as control accounts, because Kerry, I'm right in saying Scribe doesn't have control accounts in the same way. So they use EMRs instead.
Yeah, I spent some time speaking to the accountant at Scribe, and we worked out that this would be the best way to deal with those accounts. So you'll see at the bottom there's just 2 or 3 accounts added at the bottom where we're just holding money where it's about to be given back to people for various things like deposits or Felix coaches. So that's where those have come from.
And some funds are maxed out. It might be worth having an agenda item at some point to review this in more detail, rather than just kind of adopting it as it is, because we haven't changed the ceilings in a while. So I don't know that there's necessarily anything in there, but we should review the reserves policy in any case. So I'll try and get on the agenda for the next meeting.
So if we've maxed out, then is there a need to increase it? I mean, if we're not, are we using that reserve? And if we're not using that reserve, do we need to increase the amount of the reserve?
Well, if you take, for example, 344, the election reserve, the fund rule is it can't exceed 30,000. But if what we will need to do is check with the elections team at West Suffolk for what an election would cost. I think in theory, if we had a full election for the town council on our own, it would cost something around £40,000, and we have some money goes in each year. But that number is now 2 or 3 years old. And I don't know whether they might now say it's 45,000, in which case we would probably want to allow the election reserve to rise up a little bit further, so that the same £10,000 a year would fit it. Because at the moment, the 10,000 that was in the budget for the election reserve didn't go in. It stayed in general reserves because it's full. There's no more room for any more money in it. So it might be that we want to just tweak that. And there may be other examples where we've put a limit, let's say long-term maintenance provision, not that we're really getting anywhere close to the limit there. But when we're getting towards spending a lot of money, we might want to start adding funds into this figure to push it up. At the moment, we're seeing these numbers are fairly similar. So we might want to start putting, say, 35 or 40,000 a year in to bring this number up, so that if there's a really big expenditure, such as the heat and vent system, that we have more funds built up towards it. I have to say that has been around that figure for the last 10 years, 11 years, and the heat and vent system is still chugging on. A reserves policy actually would say things like, we think we would need to spend this much money. How many years would it take us to accrue that? Therefore, we up the ceiling and make a decision each year to budget to put money into that, so that we don't find in 2 or 3 years' time, 1 year gets a massive hit on its budget and all our reserves are really pulled away. And there might be some reserves we think we just don't need anymore.
Okay. Anybody's got any questions? Councillor Burns.
Better ask something, otherwise it'll be a quick meeting, right?
That's what you wanted.
Well, yeah, I know. I could actually afford to knock off for the night. Remind me, Colin, 365 Bevan House capital receipts.
Yes.
What happened to the other lot of money that we actually got?
Where it went into the splash pad.
Oh, we used it for that, did we?
Yeah, if you any capital expenditure, you'll use your capital reserves because you can't use your capital reserves on anything else.
Oh, I know that. Sorry, yeah, I didn't.
Accounting rules are you spend the money that's designated for
Yeah.
a purpose before you spend general funds.
Right, so so that's where it came from. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But I suppose arguably that's one of those examples where maybe it should be renamed or something. Where it mentions Bevan House receipt, which I appreciate that, but that's long gone, and maybe we just need to, but that's one of those minor things, as you said. Some of these may need consolidating, moving somewhere else, whatever. Thank you.
If we had any more capital receipts, you certainly would want to change. That's a description rather than a name, but yes.
No, I know. I realise that.
It just happens to be just that at the moment.
Yeah, maybe just one. Yeah, maybe there's a lot of reserves there, and I'm wondering. I mean, I know that's a particular one because it's capital, but yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no more on that one, we'll move on to.
Well, we're just going to go down to the new reserves.
Yeah, sorry.
So just to say that we've closed the fund for the volunteer centre as the volunteer centre's gone, but then these new reserves would have been control accounts. I think that's fair to say, isn't it, Kerry?
Yeah, correct. So those bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from Good Neighbours down in Rialto's system, they're listed as control accounts, and at year end they have balances that carry forward. But in the Scribe system, the difference is it's just an earmark reserve instead, and the balances carry forward. Now, the Good Neighbours and the Felix scheme, because it was year end, I made sure to balance those down to 0. That might not always be the case at year end, but it's just the way it fell this year. So I've opened them, but there's nothing in them at the moment. Promoter hire is when we sell tickets for customers via our ticketing system, and then we pass on the ticket income less what it costs them to hire the venue, etc., etc. Gift vouchers speak for themselves. When people buy gift vouchers, we have to hold that for them so that they can use them in the future. And booking deposits is just the deposits we take for the Clement Centre. So we hold those deposits for a short amount of time and then they go back to the customers. So essentially these are quite short-term EMRs where the money will flow in and flow out quite quickly. So they should never really get to a high volume.
Just adding to that, and again, it harks back to the need to review the reserves policy because of these extra reserves. In the case of gift vouchers, what we're suggesting as a policy is that the value of the gift vouchers is the amount that have been sold in the immediately preceding financial year, and any that were sold the year beforehand will be written off on the assumption that people have had 12 months and haven't cashed them in. They can still cash them in, but from an accounting point of view, what we don't want to have is a creditor account building and building and building, when in actual fact, for whatever reason, some of these vouchers are now very, very long in the tooth. So that's our suggestion, to keep that number realistic, because clearly the ones sold in the last 12 months, there is a reasonable expectation they will still be used. So that's what we're working to.
Is it worth considering putting an expiry date on the gift vouchers if that's possible, or is that not? You're not able to do that?
Well, I don't know what the actual law is on that, but I know that there was quite a fuss. I don't know when any councillors know about that. But I can remember when some of the high street shopping companies put relatively short sell-by dates on their gift vouchers, and people were quite furious about it.
Trying to think, get back to my record tokens, how long they lasted. That's a long time ago, isn't it? Councillor Burns.
I've still got some book tokens I was given in 1979, which are still valid. I have to say, and not probably worth as much as they were in 1979. But so these are effectively year-end accruals and committed costs carrying forward to the next year. Is that right? Just nod, Kerry. Say yes. Yeah, thank you. That's fine.
Okay.
I'm surprised Scribe doesn't do them, but okay. I see what you've done to get around it. Okay.
Scribe works on receipts and payments basis, so a lot of the language that we're used to with income and expenditure doesn't exist in their world.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I had more here about it. Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Very much. I was a bit hasty early because I've got it on a separate window on my screen, so I'd already seen all the spreadsheet. Maybe something everybody else had. Okay.
So, Chair, we're seeking a recommendation to full council to adopt these.
Okay. So, okay, can I have a proposer? There's Councillor Burns and seconder, Councillor Hanlon. All that's in favour? That's accepted. Recommendation is accepted. Thank you. Right. Oh. So there was two spreadsheets for earmark reserve, wasn't
Yes,
there?
there's the other one, which is the community trust one we can have a look at, which came from Kerry, and I just need to find it.
We've already adopted it.
No, that was you've adopted the town council.
Yeah.
One.
Just because it's not a separate agenda item, I thought we might have sort of prematurely adopted this one as well.
No. When did you send? No, that's a different one.
Same email.
When did you send it, Kerry?
Should be in the same email, Colin. Let me see.
Oh, yeah, I've got it. Right.
Got it?
Right, let's share the screen. Again, I mean, this is all fairly kind of self-explanatory. A few reserves have been closed where they're no longer required. Particularly, there's reserves, restricted reserves there, of course, for charities. That's where this is funding that has been provided most often to Karen Chappell's projects, but a few other ones as well. And they just needed to be put into restricted reserves to be carried forwards as they were grants given in year, but they weren't intended to be spent only in the new financial year, so that they have to be accounted for in the year in which they were given.
You made this comment about the Arts Centre 314. Is it a duplicate?
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. Basically, it's rather than hold the money in both places, we're holding the money already in the town council. So that's been released to general funds.
Anybody got any questions? Sorry, Kerry, did you want to comment on that?
My only comment would be is much like the town council, I think it would be very useful for us to review the reserves on the community trust, because same as with town council, and as you can see, there are a few funds here that could maybe do with consolidation and just like a little review of precisely what the fund rules are. So I would hope that that could be done as well alongside the town council.
Yeah, good idea. Councillor Burns.
Yeah, sorry. 307 community kitchen, is that now a maintenance budget reserve rather?
Well, it can be used for whatever the leisure and community committee want to use it for, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, but it obviously does specifically say community kitchen. I just
Yeah, it is. It's for the community kitchen, not for the rest of the building.
no. Okay, so I could be. I don't know whether we want to dedicate that amount of money just for that room. Okay, when we have so much more needs to be done to the building. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's in our gift. Most of the earmarked reserves will be funds that are given for a particular purpose.
Yeah, I don't know where that money came from, so that's why. Yeah. Okay.
I couldn't tell you offhand. We
No,
don't-
I don't expect you to. Sorry, no. I mean, it's a few years now. Okay.
Any more questions on community trust reserve, earmark reserves? No, thank you very much. All right, item 9 is the asset register.
You don't need to recommend the community trust one to the council because it doesn't
sorry.
approve it. So we can go on to the asset register. I was just anticipating Councillor Burns' hand. So with the asset register, we've done what was asked last time round, which is actually go through and clear out a whole load of disposals that probably happened a long time ago, but certainly we check that we don't still have any of these things. The only one you just want to see is you'll notice that there's an acquisition and disposal within the same year of the wheelie bin containers. So they were bought by us using the UK SPF funds in order to maximise what we could get out of that. Otherwise, it would have gone by the by. But actually, of course, we don't want wheelie bin containers personally. They're there for the use of West Suffolk. So we did a deal with West Suffolk that we called down the money, which they can't call down. We bought the wheelie bin containers and then presented them to West Suffolk. So in that way, there's now 6 larger bins in the high street, and the 6 smaller ones have now that they replace have now been redeployed around town. And also, additionally, you'll see that West Suffolk have also added some recycling stroke rubbish bins around town as well. So we've hopefully that will help keep Haverhill tidy.
Okay. Got any questions on the asset register? No, that's just for noting, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Right. Okay. Didn't quite. Might just about make the half hour. Item 10 then is the date of the next meeting, which is Tuesday, the 22nd July, 2025. There's no other business, and closure is at 19:29. Thank you very much for your attendance. See you soon. Sorry,
I'll stop.
is it Councillor Hannon? Sorry, is that the point you wanted to raise, or is that just waving goodbye?